In today's session, we are going to build our chat app. So we will start our implementation. Okay. So these were the technologies that we are going to use: Python, Flask, MongoDB, and Kafka. Okay. And we have taken a brief overview of each technology in the previous session. Okay. So now let's move to our chat app. So the home page of our chat app should look like this. Okay. So in this, a chatting application should be there. Then registered should be there. Then we have the login. Okay. And after that, there will be a registration page in which a registration form will be there. Then we have a login page in which a login form will be there. After that, we will have a dashboard in which a dashboard will be there for a user to communicate with any other user. Okay. Here the user can select from the user list, and here is the group list. There will be two buttons: fetch users and fetch groups. Okay. So the fetch user, when user will click on this, then the user list get updated, and when the fetch user group, the user click on this, the group will get updated. Then we will have the chat window here in which messages are there, and a send message input will be there for by using which a user can send a message. Okay, so let's try to first build our home page. Okay, so our home page should look like this. There should be two buttons: register and login. So let's start with coding. Okay, so we have our home.py here. Okay, so I have created one directory, chat app. Okay, in which three files are there. One is home.py, in which basic app, Flask application code is there. Okay, and then I have a readme in which something is written like the objective of our chat app, that the user can register, he or she can log in, send message, then delete or update messages. Then we have support for group chat. Then we have support for persistent chat. So when the user get log out, then when the again the user get login, then user can fetch their old messages. Okay. So first we will try to make these three pages in today's session: home, login, and registration. Okay, and we can also we will also try to uh, add MongoDB database in it. Okay, so that the user and user information can be authenticated. Okay, so here home.py, and then we have a commands.md in which some MongoDB commands are there. So these are some MongoDB shell commands, so we can check whether our database is created properly or not. Then we have a Kafka commands that we will be using later when we um, see the how we are going to store our user information and how the each services will be communicating with each other. Okay, so let's start with home.py. Okay, in home.py we have a function. Okay, so first of all, these are the libraries, okay, that we are going to use. So first library is for the Flask. Okay, in which render template, URL for request and redirect are there. Then we have Kafka consumer and Kafka producer to communicate with Kafka. Then we have some general libraries like import OS, time, and JSON. Okay, then we have PyMongo to communicate with the MongoDB database. So first we will create our app. So the app is created by this, and this key, secret key, is used for encryption in Flask. Okay, then we will have our URL. So whenever a user click on this URL, then this function will be called and the value will be returned here. Okay, so here hi will be returned. Then by default Flask open at this IP localhost, and port number is by default 5000. Okay, then we have a main function in which we write app.run, in which our app will going to run. Okay, then we have debug equal to true and threaded equal to true. So we will launch our app in a debug mode so that we don't have to run again and again. And threaded equal to true means whenever the new request came, then it will be processed by a separate thread. Okay, so this is about our basic Flask app. Now let's run this app and see the output. Okay, so let me start our Flask app. Okay, so Python home.py. So the Flask server is running now, and on this URL we can see the output. So let me show you the URL. Let's go on that URL. So yeah, so here hi is printing, as you can see here. Okay, so we can print anything here. So I can write something like Shubham here, and when I save and again refresh it, then hi Shubham should be there. Okay, so we can write anything here. Also we can render some HTML templates also. So for example, we can render a template here, HTML page. So for that, let's first create one directory. Its name will be, okay. So sorry, not open folder. We have to create one folder here. Okay. So we have to create a new folder, and the name of the folder should be templates. Okay. So when we open this, now our templates folder is there, and now in this template folder, let's create a new file, and the name of this file would be home.html. Okay. Now in home.html, let's create the HTML page. So this is the syntax for the HTML. Okay. Let's give the title name as home page. Okay. And in the body, let's give something in h1 tag. Let's say it will be home page. Okay, let's save this, and instead of returning some string, let's render a page. Okay. So render template, and in this we will mention the name of our web page, that is home.html. Okay. Now when we refresh here, so home.html home page is coming here in h1 tag, as you can see. Okay, so we can render any page here. So this is the URL for so slash is the root URL. So when we click on this IP, or when we write this IP and port, so we will be thrown to the home page. Okay, and slash is there. Okay. So I want after the IP and port there should be home. Okay, so I can also add one routing URL also, like slash home. Okay, when I click on slash home, now again I can see the same page. Okay. So when I write IP colon port then slash home, then I will be redirected to home.html. Okay. So let's add something in home.html. So I want that our home.html should look like this. There should be a chatting application or chat app, and there should be the two buttons. Okay. First one is register and second one is for login. So let's create those button first. Okay. So let me do one thing first. Let me create one division tag here. Okay, and in that division tag, let the style would be width equal to 100. Sorry, width 100%, and text aligned should be center. So all the text should be aligned in the center. Then we can create one table here, and that table the width is 100%. Okay. And in the table, let's create row in which there is one column, and in that column there will be a label. Okay, also in this label we will write our home page. Okay, so let's copy it from here. Okay, and instead of home page, let's give some other name here. So let us give the chat app using Flask. Okay, and after that, let's create two buttons. Okay, so let's create one more row and that one more column. Let's give button. Okay. And that button should be, first one should be register, and after that yeah, TD. Then we have button, and the button will be login button. So as you can see, we have created our home page. So now let's refresh our home page first and see what will be the output. So our output looks like this now. Chat app using Flask, then register, and then login. So these buttons are not looking so good. So let's add some CSS here. So I have already written some CSS in this readme.md. So I will just going to copy this. Okay. So let me just copy it, and in home.html just copy it in the style tag. Okay. So let me create one style tag first. Just copy this button CSS. Okay. Yeah. So now the CSS has been added. Now let's see the output. Let's refresh it. Okay. So now our chat tab is looking good. Okay. So this is our home page, and there is two buttons: login and register. When I click on login, nothing is happening, and when I click on register, nothing is happening. So let's add some functionality in register and login. Okay. So let's first start with the register button. Okay. So as you can see, we have made our home page. Now let's try to make registration form. And for that registration form, let's create first the registration.html. Okay, so go to templates and create a new file. Okay. In that, the file name should be register.html. Okay, so in this register.html, let's write some HTML code in which this page name should be registration form. Okay, and after that, let's uh, uh, give some name here. Let's first create one form here. Okay. So in this form should be get submitted, and just let's create table so that our view looks good. Okay. So UI looks good. Okay. Table in this, there will be table entry in which first we will take the uh, username. Okay. Username. Okay. And after that there will be an input field. Okay. So the input field, the type of the input will be text. The name of the input will be UID. Okay, and then we have a placeholder in which we will write we can write enter a username, enter a username. Okay, so this is the input tag. Okay. So input tag is a single tag, so we don't have to write slash input, we just end it with slash. So now let's copy this thing for uh, email ID and password. Okay, so just it will be email ID, then type will be email, and the name will be email. Okay, and enter email. Okay, then we have password. Okay, in which the type will be password. Okay, the name will also be password, and enter password. Okay, so we have created our form. So also let me add one more button that will be for registration next to submit the form. So let me add the button. Okay, and the type of button should be submit. Okay, and its name should be register. Okay. So let's see how our registration page looks like. So before that, let me add some URL in the home.py. So when we click on home or when we click on slash, so we will rewrite to home.html. So let me just copy it and make it for register. So when I go to URL register, okay, then I will redirect it. Then I will be redirected to this function, the register function, in which I will render the template register. Okay, register.html. Okay. Now let's also add in home.html. So when we click on register, nothing is happening. So let me add one anchor tag here, in which href should be register. Okay. So it will just register to that. It will redirect it to register URL. Okay. So yeah. So let me refresh our page. And when we click on register, now we will be thrown to the registration form. So as you can see here, the username is there, enter username, email is there, password is there, or register is there. So we have created one form. So also let's give one heading here. So let me go to Sublime again, and in that register.html, let me add one header, okay, h1, in which it is registration form, okay, and let's refresh it. Okay, so registration form is there. Also, let me add some CSS here. Let me put for CSS. Let me go to style tag, okay, and we will copy the CSS from the readme.txt. So I have written the CSS for input and button. Okay. So let's go to the register.html again and just copy paste the CSS. Okay. Okay. So let's refresh our page. Okay. So our use now our form is looking good. Okay. Uh, okay. And in this register button, the it is not coming fully. So let's edit the button CSS in which the width is 30%. So let it be 80%. Okay. Let it be 100%. Yeah, just refresh it. Yeah, so register is coming now. Okay. So we will enter username, email, password, and this we will click on register. So it will get the form will get submitted to some URL. So we will mention that URL in the form. Okay. So let's mention that. Okay, so in form, let me give a method, and method it will be register. So we will means when we click on this form, then we will again redirect to register. Okay. Then we will have a method. Then we will sorry. So this will be action, and then we will have the method will be post method. So, okay. And yeah, so we have completed our registration form. Also, let me add one more link here, and in that link there will be anchor tag which redirect to our home page. So let me home. Okay. And also when the user already has a account, so let me give already have an account. So then just go to login page. Okay. In this we will give the login URL. So just let login. And also let us first make one function for login also. So just copy register, and instead of register let's write login. Then we will have login here, and after that here login. Okay. .html. Let's also create one login.html page first. Okay. So login.html will be there. Okay. In this, let's add some HTML first. Let's give a page name as login page, and in this, let's give one header h1 in h1 tag heading that will be login form. Okay. And also let's create one form here for submission, uh, so that the login information gets submitted. Okay. And in this, let's use one table, and that's tr tag, and this tt tag will be there, and this one label should be there. That will be our user ID or username. Okay. And then there should be another table entry for the input. Okay. In the input, the type should be text, name should be UID, placeholder will be enter, let's just copy this entry from above. Okay, and paste it for the password also. Okay, so just now give the type as password and the name will be password, and after that we will enter a password. Okay, fine. Let's add one more row in which there will be the login button. Okay, so let me add one button here, and button type should be submit, so that whenever we click on this button, this form gets submitted. Okay, so button name will be login. Okay, fine. So let's refresh our register page. So we have login dot home is there. So in this, let me add one break tag so that okay, fine. So yeah, so registration form, username is there, email ID is there, password is there, and when we click on register, we will thrown to the register page. Then we have login, register if we have already an account. If you want to click go on home, then home is there. When we click on home, then we will go to home page, and when we click on register, we will be redirected to register page. Okay, so now uh, let's also add the login form link like we have done for the register. So in home.html, so let's name it as login, and in that okay, so we have added the anchor tag here, and we have already created the login.html in which there should be one more thing here. After this, if there should be something like create a new account. Okay, so here we can give anchor tag in which register URL will be there and same will be registered. Then we will have a break tag, and after that let's again give some link to go on the home page. Okay, okay, fine. So we have done the login page. So let's see whether our login page is working fine. Okay. So let's first go to the home page, and then let's click on login page. Yeah, so login form is there. Create a new account, username, password, login button, all are there. Okay, so let's add some CSS here also. So let me copy it from our readme file. So this CSS is for the button and the input only. So we are just making so that they can look good. Okay, so that's why we are adding this style. In this, we just have to add this again, and button should width should be 100%. So now let's see the form. Yeah, now our login form is also looking good. So login button is there, username is there, password is there, register is there, home is there. And also just go to login.html. Let's give the action equal to login. So we will redirect to login. Then we have the method as post. Okay. So yeah. So we have home page, then we have register page, then we have the login page. Okay, so we have completed 3 pages here. Okay, so we have made the home page, then we made the registration page, then we have the login page. Okay, okay. Also we can add the forward password thing also here, and which let's write here forget password, forgot password. So let's give an anchor tag, and that anchor tag there will be one big statement. That anchor tag we will be, so let's put it empty, and okay, so yeah, put it here. So for now the forgot password is when we click on this, then it will do nothing because we haven't mentioned the URL, but there will be one entry over there. We will code it later. Okay, so we have made these three pages. So let's first connect the registration page with some means take the data from this registration page. Okay, okay. So when so for now when we click on register, okay, and when we enter something like user one, then user one @ gmail, okay, and after that we are adding password 123. Then when we click on registration, then the method is not allowed because the uh, because here we have used post method, and in our home.py we have not give the method name. So here we have to mention our method name also. Okay, so methods should be get or post. Okay, so we have to mention it here. Then we again, if I go to registration page, then again I will enter something here. Okay, and when we click on registration, so yeah, in email ID something should be there at the rate. Okay, so again the registration form is coming because we have to mention this get and post because we have not mentioned, then the by default get method will be called. Okay. Similarly, in the methods we have to put in login also. So here nothing is happening because we haven't done anything in the home.py file. Okay. So in the also, yeah, one second, form is open. So nothing that one second. Yeah. Yes, login form is there, and when we enter the login detail like user one and password something, so we want to change this information. Okay. So here also let me just, okay, yeah, I've added it. Now when I click, when I enter username something, then password something, then it should be thrown to a login page. So it is okay. So now let's add some database code. Okay. So for that, so let me put one more function that will be our registration check function. So it is for checking the registration info. Okay. So let me also create some MongoDB table. So in readme.md I have written the code for connection. So let me explain the code first. Okay. So let me copy it and let me paste it in the home.py file. Okay. So in this, my client is there, and we are calling Mongo client. So it will create one client for Mongo to access the MongoDB and MongoDB localhost, and this is the default port for MongoDB database. Then we will create one authentication database which is already created. Then we will just use it. So it will be our user DB, and in the user DB we will be creating user info table. Or okay, so if it is not existed, then it will be created, and if it is existed, then we will use then its reference will be stored in this user table. So this is the code for MongoDB database. Okay, okay. So let me just do so when we get the request. Okay, so request dot method equal to post. Okay, so if the method is post, then we will return it to, let me add one more page, and that will be our dashboard.html. Okay. If method is post, then return to dashboard.html, otherwise render the registration.html, register.html. So let me run this, and first let me make the new page for dashboard. One second, let me first save this file, and its name will be dashboard.html, and which HTML tag will be there. Let's name it as dashboard. Okay. And in this there will be one header in which dashboard will be there. Okay, fine. So we have added dashboard.html. Now let's move to home.py again. Let me once create one more function, that is dashboard function. So let me give the URL as dashboard. Okay, and the page name is also dashboard. So when we click on register function, then register check will be called. So in the registration.html, let's give the function name as registration check, register check. So now let's refresh. Let's uh, go to our home page again, and in this, when we click on register, when we do the registration, user one, then some email ID, then some password, and when I click on registration, then I will be thrown to the register page, because I am calling here the post method. When I click on this register button, then I will be redirected to dashboard.html. Okay. So here dashboard.html, I have redirected to dashboard.html. But if I go to means registration check directly, means then it will be called by get, so I will be thrown to registration form, so I can't go to this URL. Okay, so yeah, so this is about the registration check. Now let's check what are the information that we are getting in the registration form. So when registration, this is request.method equal to post. Okay, so in this, let's first take the input. So it will be reqd request req, in which we have a request dot form. So it will contain all the form data, and let's convert it into a dictionary. Okay, and let's print that dictionary first. So let me just refresh this page first, and when I add user one, okay, an email ID will be user one @gmail, then the password will be 123, and when I click on registration, so dashboard is coming, and when we see the terminal, in this our username will be there. That means that we have entered, that is user one, email ID is user one @gmail.com, then we have password equal to 123. Okay, so yeah, so this is about the registration check. So let's enter this entry in the dashboard. Means enter this entry in the Mongodb database. So we have created one table for Mongodb database, that is user info and authentication DB. So let's use it, and for that mm, let me go to readme.md, in which I have written a code to register a user. Okay. So this line insert a user in the MongoDB database. Okay. So let's do something. So first of all, let's find whether the user is already present or not. Okay. So for that we have this query command. So we will just use it directly in our code. So we have query. Okay. And after that, for x in query. Okay. So let me take one variable, and the name of that variable will be flag, in which let it be 0, and if x uid is equal to request UID. Okay. Then we have the let me then make flag equal to 1. Okay, and break. So when this is equal to request UID is equal to the query UID, then we will put flag equal to 1 and then we will break. And if we in here we will provide one check in which we will do something like this. If flag equal to 0, then we have means the user does not exist, so that we can insert our user. So for that we can user table dot, so let me take some variable temp in which user table dot insert is there, and in that we are inserting the request. So this request get inserted in the, so let me first make the direct one dictionary in which there will be UID. Okay, so UID will be request UID. Then we have email. Email will be RQ email. Then we will have password, which password will be there. Okay, and let's insert this. Okay, insert one. So let me see the function name first. Yeah, so it is insert one function. Okay, so in this insert one function, we just have to put our dictionary that we have made. So it will register the user. Yeah. So now if it is not true, okay, okay, then we will just render it to our dashboard page. If the user is new, if the user already exists, then we will just render one invalid page. So let me put it invalid. Let's make that invalid page also. So make a new file, save it, invalid.html, in which HTML is there, tag in which invalid page, invalid page, and here let me put h1 tag, and let me write error message. Okay, in that error message we have the message. Okay, so this will be the Flask code that we will be returning while rendering. Okay, so let me add this message in the HTML file also, with the HTML. That the message is user already registered. Okay, and when we are calling the dashboard, let me give the username also. So UID equal to request dot UID. Okay, so our our registration check is completed now, and we have also inserted our record if it is not present, already present in the table. Okay, let me go to dashboard page, and in which let me use the UID here. It is showing that this is this user's dashboard. Okay, yeah. So let's check whether this register check function is working or not. Okay, so let's go to our URL and go to, let's register a user. Let's the username will be user2. Okay, and its email ID is user2 at the rate gmail.com. Okay, and then we will add the password 123, and when we click on register, then the user 2 should be coming. Okay, so yeah, user 2 is coming, and let's check our MongoDB database also, whether the user is coming. For that, let me open one command prompt in which pymongo, sorry, pymongo, only mongo. It will open the MongoDB shell. Okay, and in this, let me show you one second. Okay. Show DBs. So authentication DB is there. Let's use that authentication DB. Okay. Now let's see the entries in this. So show collections. Okay. And we have the, now we will see the entries in our collection. That is user info dot find. So it will show all the entries in our collection. So there are two entries. First is user 1 and second is user 2. Okay. So user 1 is already registered previously. Okay. And we have registered now user 2. Okay. So now let's do the login part also. So like similarly, like we have made register check, we will making the login check also. So let's just copy this thing. Okay. So one second. Yeah. So let me just copy this thing, and we will make our login check function. Okay, in which login check will be there. And its URL will be login check. So like we have made changes here. Okay, so similarly we have to make the change in the login.html where the login is there, so we have to make it login check. Okay, okay, fine. Now in home.py we have first taken the form data, then we have this also. If the form data means if we have called this method um, by some get method, so it should just go to the login.html page. Okay, okay, fine. So we have checked if it exists, then break will be one, flag will be one, and let me make one more variable, that is temp. Initially temp is none, and in temp we will be put x. And now let's do some checking here. Okay. Like if, one second. Yeah. So if flag is one, then our yeah, user exists. But if flag is not one, okay, that's, so we will go to return, and in this we will render a page, and that page will be invalid page. Okay, invalid.html, and the message would be user not registered. Okay, okay. Then in this, if the user is registered, then we will check if x, sorry, temp password is equal to and request password. Okay, so we have after this we will return to dashboard.html. Okay. So let me just write render in which dashboard.html is there, and mess, and in that UID will be the request UID. And if it is not correct, then we will just throw it to the uh, invalid page, and this time the message would be incorrect password. Okay, something like that. we have done this. Now let's check our dashboard. Okay. So let me just go to our dashboard home. When we click on login form open, and then we have enter user 1, 1, 2, 3. Then we press on login. So users one dashboard is there, and yeah, so it is working. Okay. So now let's go to the login page once again. Okay. So we have login page once again, and in this time I will just write incorrect password 1, 2, 4, 3. Okay. Now this password is incorrect. So when I log in, then a incorrect password message should be printed. So it is printed. So our login and register service is working fine. Okay. So we have made login check. Okay. Then we have made so we have also made the registration check. So it will compare it with the MongoDB database whether the user exists or not, and then it will when the user will log in, then it will compare the password. Okay. So this is about for today's lecture. So we have learned many things. So we have made our home.py file. Okay. Then we have made our login.html, register.html, and we have also made an invalid page which will show the invalid message if something went wrong. Okay. So this is it for today's session. Okay. So yeah, let's meet in the next session. And in the next session, we will be building the dashboard.html. Okay, and we will be also make it dynamic a little bit. Okay, so yeah, thank you for watching.